Hi, welcome back to another video. My name is Amy. This is Living with the Leals. I have you a little sideways because I noticed the glare kind of blocks out my eyes. So I'm trying my best to avoid the glare, but sometimes you can't really avoid it. I forgot when I got these glasses to have the film, so then the anti-glare film, I forgot what it's called. But I'm trying to save up for contacts, so I will be getting contacts soon so that I won't have the glare. I hate wearing glasses. Anyways, on to business. I finished And the Shofar Blue, and that's what this video is all about. My thoughts on the book. This is about this pastor who was invited to preach, or invited or hired is a better word, to this little church that it appeared to be dying. I can see how, like, these elders were put off by Paul. At the same time, I believe, in my opinion, they were kind of stuck in their ways. So there's two sides of the story here. There are a lot of different perspectives in this book as far as like different types of Christians, different walks of Christianity. Church is full of a lot of elderly people. There's not a lot of young people. Right off the bat, the guy who was hired to be the pastor saw it. I was seeing it immediately, saw it as like a more like a business than a ministry. Even though he said it was a ministry and this is for God, he turns this church that's basically like 60 people into like 3,000 people. So he like turns it into a mega church. He just let one thing after another, after another, after another, kind of a domino effect. Like if you compromise on one thing, you're going to compromise on another. It's just kind of watching the progression of that. I did notice that the names were very familiar. I didn't really care for the wife's name. Her name is Eunice. I kind of thought that was like an older name. This book, I should say, is inspired by the church in the New Testament, based on Paul, Lois, Eunice, and Timothy. Timothy was looked down upon by Paul in the New Testament because of his age, because of his young age. In the book of And the Shofar Blue, Timothy is Paul's son, and Paul, it just seems like he detests his son, like he's just so annoyed with him. There's Eunice and Paul seem to have more and more problems in their marriage. She prayed for her husband. She tried to be a strong wife, a strong godly wife, but she's not perfect. So I appreciated seeing that, but I also was encouraged by how she just prayed for her husband. You see the example of Lois and her husband. Lois is Paul's mother in the book. You see that example and how Paul is working to get his father's approval. There's a lot that happens in this book that is real life. I really liked seeing different kinds, I don't want to say different kinds of Christians. It was so dynamic with how these different characters came together because it's so realistic. So there's a character named Stephen. I thought, because these characters were named after actual people in the Bible, I thought Stephen was going to be murdered, or he was going to be in an accident or something, because Stephen was the first martyr for Christ. So I was already anticipating something happening to Stephen in the book. He came out of alcoholism. He came from a broken marriage, and he came to Christ. He was discipled by Samuel. Samuel was one of the elders in the church before it became a mega church. And Samuel had his own little home group. Samuel and his wife, Abby, just seemed to have a real heart for the Lord and desire to do what was right. He was just so patient, but also just, there were times where I thought, why don't you just leave? If you're so frustrated, and his frustration was valid, why don't you just leave? That and so I've wondered why he didn't leave and why it took him so long to do that. It wasn't like it happened within a year. Like, this happened within 14 years. It's just a slow progression, and you don't even see it coming because one person compromised in one area and another person compromised in another area, and letting other people influence rather than letting the Holy Spirit guide and lead. I like the stories. I like how everything buttons up and how everything comes together. But I just don't agree with the forgiveness message. Here is why. So Paul cheated on Eunice, and Eunice discovered this. It came to a head. She fled. I can't blame her. She's not given a chance to grieve over this. She's not given a chance to rest and listen to the Lord. She's not given a chance to be still. And I mean, she was given a chance to cry it out and to talk about it, but she wasn't really given a chance to, like, get it out. Lois kind of had a nonchalant attitude towards it. Like, she was just kind of like, it won't last. Well, okay, but he was unfaithful. Is that to say that you're expecting Eunice to stay with your son now? Because biblically speaking, if there's infidelity, that's rights for divorce, for separation. It does mention that in the book. The thing I don't like is that Eunice was talking to this stranger and she's expressing her hurts over this. He says, you need to forgive. Well, yes, but that's between her and God. God, the Holy Spirit works with each person on that. And Jesus said, it you forgive 70 times 7, which means it's continual. It's a continual act. The thing I don't like about this forgiveness message is that you forgive a person, therefore you let them back in your life again. I don't like that either. Eunice can forgive Paul. Eunice should have been given the chance to forgive Paul on her own terms, and he was patient with her. However, this is all within the same week. She found out, I don't know what day it was, but let's just say it was a Monday. She found out on a Monday, fled to Pennsylvania on a Wednesday, and then Paul showed up on a Thursday asking for forgiveness. Like, it's like, give her some time. This was really traumatic. Even if she did forgive him, she doesn't have to go back to him. I've heard of couples who have been in this situation, and the person who was unfaithful had made an actual genuine change, and that's when they got back together. I guess what I'm trying to say is the issue I'm having is that Eunice didn't really have a chance to really process this. They made it work, and the way that Paul apologized was amazing. It was beautiful. It was, I mean, you don't see pastors do this. I wish that we saw pastors do this more often, and he stepped down, which is exactly what he should have done. He stepped down, and he was not ever in leadership ever again, which I believe was the right move. The biggest thing was the forgiveness part of it. Did like Eunice's I liked her faith. Then you realize that Lois was covering up for her husband and her son. And I also didn't like that Lois told her son, Lois said, "You're not welcome in my home until you make things right with Eunice." I mean, what if Eunice doesn't want to make things right? That's what Paul has to live with. So I don't know. Tell me what your thoughts are. If you've read this book, tell me what your thoughts are. I'm open to discussion. I like discussions on these books. I I did enjoy this read. I did enjoy this book, and I am glad that I read it. It's just a lot to take in. However, it's a Francine Rivers book. So, what do you expect? Overall, I give this I give this a 4.5. I thought this was brilliant, honestly. Anyways, tell me what you thought in the comments below, and I'd love to discuss this with you. So, I will talk to you later. Bye.